So today's presentation is on patron empowerment at Seton Hall University. I'm not going to read every slide verbatim. Really, the focus of today's presentation is talking about how Seton Hall an OCLC WMS customer integrated their EDS, their EBSCO discovery system, with their ILS, with WMS. And so we'll both be talking today.
Yes, hello, it's Elizabeth. Jumping in, saying hello. Go ahead.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
No problem.
As Elizabeth and I have agreed, we are definitely going to, we've been very comfortable during this project working together. We are going to jump in and, as need be during today's presentation. And as you can see for the agenda today, Elizabeth is going to talk about Seton Hall's experience, as well as giving probably the thing you're most interested in seeing, a live demo, and talk about her experience. I'll pick it up with a little bit of background on what is required to participate within the ILS integrations and the patron empowerment within EDS. And then, of course, we'll both talk a little bit about what we've learned and what we feel are the next steps for today's presentation. So just as a bit of background, because I think sometimes it's important for, for my fellow librarians, I have an MLS. I've worked at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. I've worked at Harvard Law. I've worked at Harvard Business. I have brought up online circulation at 2 institutions. I have been a circulation administrator. I have been a copy cataloger, and I've done a retrospective conversion project in my career. I have a number of years in academic libraries, and then for the last 13, 14 years prior to joining EBSCO, I worked at Ex Libris, where I worked with Aleph, MetaLib, and Voyager, and Primo, primarily Primo for the last few years before I joined EBSCO to work with EDS and the APIs. So with that, that's enough background on me, and I will turn it over to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, can I give you a presentation, or do you just want me to?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that? I'm
sure.
Yeah, not sure what I'm going to say after that.
So let's see.
Just give me a second.
Sure.
And can everybody see me now?
There we go.
Yeah. Can you see me now? Sure. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Good. Hold on. Nope. Sorry about that. Okay, my name is Elizabeth Leonard. I'm the Assistant Dean at Seton Hall University. My background was in IT for most of my career, and about 6 or so years ago, I decided to make a change, went back to library school, and my first position was directing an online campus library, so I did all virtual work, and then came to Seton Hall about 2.5 years ago, and instantly started to automate things. That's what I've done throughout my career, is to put systems online, create systems, implement systems, make systems better, workflow, and that sort of thing. So when I got to Seton Hall in 2013, they had just signed with OCLC to implement WMS, WorldShare Management Services. The system was in the cloud, which was to our advantage. We wanted to get things off of the ground here and put it on somebody else's computer, calling it in the cloud, of course. And we had chosen to go with WorldShare Management System and also their collection manager, which is, some people know, is their knowledge base, which is their electronic resource management system. We were very, very happy with the knowledge base collection manager, more or less, and very happy with the circulation functions and other functions that we had, but we were not as excited by the discovery layer, their WorldCat local and their WorldCat discovery. We did already have, our EDS, and that we called Shoe Search, and you can see it right here. And we were concerned that moving to either WorldCat Local, which they essentially stopped developing, or working with, working with our, working with Discovery, which was just being created at the time, wasn't really going to be very helpful for us. We felt that it was taking a step back, and so we decided to keep EDS as our discovery layer and take WorldCat Local and use it as an OPAC. We had been using WorldCat Local in the past, and we had a large percentage of faculty who enjoyed using it. They felt that it was very helpful, they knew how to use it, they were comfortable, and so what we did was we took all of the articles out of WorldCat Local and just literally using it as a book repository, so people could find books. The issue, of course, is that we didn't know how to figure out how to make it easy to find books for those who wanted to use our discovery layer and easy for those who wanted to use WorldCat Local. If we had people on our discovery layer, and let me switch back to this page, we have our search our books here, which goes to WorldCat Local, and here, but you can also find books through shoe search. So if I go to one of my very favorites, books to find, I can find the books here, and this is kind of a sneak peek of what I'm going to be talking about in a little bit, but if I wanted to put a hold on a book before I had this integration, I would say, okay, I want this particular book. Then I would have to go back here, go to search books, find the book, go into WorldCat Local, sign into WorldCat Local, and then place the holds. And we thought that that was asking a lot for our population to do. So our decision had been to combine them, to put them all together and take the patron functionality and the various functionalities that we felt were most helpful from WorldCat Local and integrate them into EDS. And we were very lucky because EBSCO had wanted to do this for some time, and OCLC was also actively supportive of the integration. They were really, really good, and I was very impressed with how much they worked with us, both myself and EBSCO, to make this possible. So our first hurdle that we needed to get through was to do a data dump from our prior ILS and then reconfigure to pull all of those MARC records out. The mapping was challenging and difficult, and we didn't just have a live stream, just didn't seem to be possible. So what we ended up doing was we did a data dump, we FTP'd the records over from OCLC to EBSCO. And then a single data dump file where they populated the collection. And then every day now, they send 3 files. OCLC has automated the entire process for us. So they automatically send an automated 3 files, one, any ads, so any items that we cataloged the day before, any changes, so if we changed the local holding record or we changed the barcode or we changed something about it, those would also go, and any items that we withdrew from the collection or we weeded. And those are 3 separate files, and they go every single day at the same time every day. Now I'm going to switch back to my live presentation. And we also have RTAC. And our RTAC system is our real-time access. So what this shows you is that if I have an item and I'm looking for a book in the catalog, I can see where it is, this is my shelf location, the call number, and whether or not it's even on the shelf. So I say, okay, I don't have this one, but here's one that I do. Or here's another one, oh, this is on my reserves, I know where to get that. So I know exactly where to go, it's integrated into EDS, which makes it very simple, and they don't have to, again, go find it here, then switch over to WorldCat Local, look it up, or place holds. Additionally, if I want to place a hold here, we've integrated the place hold button, which you can see right here. If all I have to do is sign in, and we use Shibboleth, so this is our Shibboleth login, which is linked, as you can see, is linked to WMS directly.
And while Elizabeth is logging in, for those of you who see the place hold button there, that's your first physical and sort of tangible indication that ILS integrations, the patron empowerment features, are available within an EDS catalog.
Right. And we were also able to granulate that. So I can have an item for a placehold in the main collection show up, but you can see the item in the main reserves doesn't have a placehold button because you can't put items on reserve on hold. That was our executive decision. And all I have to do to place the hold is click on the placehold button, choose my pickup location. At this juncture, we have 2 locations. We have a seminary library and our regular library. We are looking to add our law school library soon. If I want to set a hold schedule, I can. So if I say I don't want to pick it up after my paper is due, I can choose that. Or I can't pick it up on the weekends or something. And click Submit. And that's it. And you will now see, give it a second to refresh, that I am first in line for this. The hold starts now. It ends automatically at the end of the semester. And if I want, I can click Remove here, and it will remove it. Additionally, you will see up at the top right screen, part of the screen here, and I'm kind of circling with my mouse, I hope everybody can see it, that you have a list of checkouts and items on hold. So I can see both of them, and to get to either one, all I have to do is click on it.
And for those of you who might have a little bit hard time seeing the top right-hand side of the screen, it's My Checkouts 5, My Holds 2, Update My Account, just to make it a little bit easier.
Thank you. So this section allows me, and now of course my name is blocking it, but hey, this section allows me to it's like a quick access. But if I couldn't get to it here, I can, over on the left side, you can see my folder. This is a representation, for those of you who are familiar with EDS, this is what EDS looks like, but what they've done is they've added in our holds and fees. I don't have anything overdue, surprisingly. And audiobooks, ebooks, if I've downloaded an ebook, I can do that directly. I can access those books here as well. Articles that I've saved. So everything is available in one place. Let's go to checkouts. So for an item that I've checked out, I have an item here that's overdue, and if I want to renew it, all I have to do is click on the Renew button. So it reaches in the system, and now it's grouchy. And now it's at the bottom of the list because it's the most recent item that I've checked out, and it's been updated to the end of the semester. We don't have fees or fines at the moment, and that the reason why we don't have that is that OCLC's API isn't ready to reach out and work with our financial systems. But I did, this RTAC page down, patron functionality, checkouts you can see, and these will be, because we wanted you to have screenshots of what it was that I was showing during the live demo, we've included these in here. So you can see the checkouts, the holds, and the fines. And this is an example of a fine thing. So obviously they can't pay on here simply because WMS doesn't have that functionality quite ready yet. And now I'm going to turn it back to you, Mark.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me share my screen. Back into the PowerPoint. So one thing I might add to Elizabeth's demo is that when you're in EBSCO host folder, Elizabeth said this one way, and I think I might just add that the checkouts, the fees, and the holds are just added. They're additional lines within the EBSCO host folder. And so it's an experience, a user experience that any EDS user will be pretty comfortable with. We're basically doing a Boolean and adding a few new elements to the full list within the EBSCO host folder and EDS. So it should be pretty simple. There we go. There's the screenshot. You know, all of the standard ebooks functionality, the articles functionality, if you've saved articles, will still be available. And at present, just to make one point clear, you can see an existing user's fines and fees from Seton Hall. It's just that Elizabeth's account did not have any at present. Elizabeth is exactly right. There's not yet capabilities for payment, and that's something that on both sides, OCLC and EBSCO, that would be another opportunity that we'll touch on just a little bit later in the presentation. That's one more thing that we can add or extend for patron empowerment functionality. And really, kind of taking one step back, this whole program for ILS integration for patron empowerment features in EDS, yes, it's allowing EDS to serve as the front end, but our main goal here is to allow the choice for the library, choice for the individual library to make decisions and to offer one unified interface for their users. You decide which one you want to work with. If you want to work with OCLC, if you want to work with CirceDynX, if you want to work with Innovative, if you want to work with Koha. Basically, the main point that we want you to know is that we are interested in working with any and all of our ILS partners, and that we offer patron empowerment or we offer metadata, EDS data in either venue. You can use a discovery system and use EDS API to get the EBSCO content within that user interface, or you can use EDS and we can work with the ILS integration program and make sure that patron empowerment features against your ILS is surfaced within EDS. And there are really two pieces that this helps with, and there are two goals that I've heard for the past 15 years working with vendors, and the 15 years before that when I was working at academic libraries. The real question oftentimes is, how do we log in? How do we gain access to licensed content? How do we gain access to books? How do we do that simultaneously? I mean, really the mutual goal that we have all had as librarians and system administrators, system librarians, circulation and reference staff, research staff, is allowing users the best and the most efficient access to licensed metadata as well as the local library catalog. And so what we hope is that allowing EDS to serve as a front end would simplify the login process. It also will hopefully simplify linking, and that's one of the things that we've been taking a look at. Now, from my perspective, obviously I work at EBSCO, and I'm rather fond of EDS and very excited about some of the functionality that we can offer. Without going through a link resolver, if we have access in EDS, you can use the PDF link, you can use the HTML link, and go direct from EDS very simply, very quickly. If you're using another interface, you have lots of options there too. It's really all about your choice, what works best for the content you have, what works best for your population of researchers. So I'm going to talk in the next 2 or 3 slides about the implementation process for ILS integrations, for patron empowerment, both when you're working with ILS partners. So if you work at a library, if we are going to work with your vendor, your ILS vendor, what do they need to do? What do they need to support? And basically the requirements are pretty straightforward. One, we have to have a mutually supported authentication or authorization protocol or system, SAML, SHIB, single sign-on, SSO. At present, we do support SSO by virtue of supporting both SAML and or Shibboleth. And we are in process at this point with supporting OAuth 2 for external authorization. This is the kind of authorization that Facebook and a lot of social media platforms where the concept of, can I use my Facebook login? Can I basically reach out to another system and get an okay that I am that user and that it's okay to operate on my behalf in a second interface? Basically, so we have to have a mutually supported authentication system, SSO or OAuth 2 in short process or in due time. And the real goal here is we have to have the persistent personal identifier. And this is the one sort of technical point I want to make sure that we talk about, because for any ILS vendor who is listening in on the webinar today, and the OCLC folks, as Elizabeth pointed out, were very supportive and worked very collegial with us on this program. Basically, we needed to make sure that we could get the ID number that would represent and allow a secure transaction on behalf of Elizabeth Leonard. When she logs in to her SAML-based single sign-on system within EDS and WMS, we need to know that yes, it's her, and yes, this is an ID that we can use persistently with API calls, or basically just calls back to the ILS to say, Elizabeth would like to renew this book. Is that okay to do on her behalf? And for those of you who might be joining from, let's say an Aleph or a Voyager system, sometimes the persistent personal identifier is not the ID of a specific user, but maybe it's a database number that correlates to that individual user. And I'll go way back into Aleph parlance and say, for example, the Aleph 00 barcode or ID number would be the system number of a specific patron, but the ID number would be the 01 ID. So I say that because I like to make sure that I'm clear with people and with anyone who's evaluating the ILS integration program that we don't necessarily have to be passing back and forth, someone's personal identification number. We can use a number that then allows us to act on their behalf. And obviously with OAuth 2, we might be talking not so much about passing an ID back and forth, but a secure token that allows us to operate on a patron's behalf. So mutually supported authentication, and basically the ILS vendor has to have patron empowerment functions. They have to have APIs that meet us halfway. So WMS definitely had these APIs, and we were basically able to reach out from our side and say, Elizabeth is logged in, she would like to renew a book. We'll pass the transaction request or the renewal request to OCLC. OCLC comes back and says, yes, this is renewed, and here's the new due date. Brings it back to us, and we display that. So those really are the two requirements that are in place at this point. For those of you who want to know the list of the patron empowerment functions, this is pretty much the full list. Authentication, not too surprisingly, we have to be able to log in, and we have to basically get the patron status, whether it's a user group or some level, granular level of patron permissions or attributes, and obviously checkout information, hold information, fine information. Probably the one thing I'd like to focus in on from this slide is when you're looking at the Get pickup locations, we can pull back all of the pickup locations or all the service desks at your institution, at your library, but you may not want to expose all of those. We give you the option. Let's say you have 3 service desks. You have a main library, you have a law library, and you have the archives. Now, at almost every library I have worked, you don't expose or you don't want individuals placing holds or placing a request that the Gutenberg Bible be brought up to the archives front desk, and it can be requested and then checked out and taken home. So there is granular levels of ability and exposure. We can get all of the pickup locations, but you decide which ones you want to expose, which ones are going to work best for your circulation and public services staff. And then that was talking about implementation workflow for a vendor. And the next slide is about implementation workflow for libraries, for probably the vast majority of you listening in on today's presentation. Number one, we need a test patron account so we can test that mutually supported authentication system. We need to have an EDS catalog, whether it's an existing one or a newly created or newly added catalog in your EDS. And we need to know or understand if you are going to support holds or not. There are definitely a great number of libraries that do not allow patrons to place holds. The librarians may be able to place the random hold every once in a while for a specific purpose, maybe pulling something back for reserves, but by and large, holds are not exposed to the general population. When you're talking about testing the patron account, we basically just need to make sure that the ILS vendor can return that persistent personal identifier that we can use on your behalf, on that patron's behalf, to make the calls. You know, can Elizabeth check out this book, or can she place a hold on this book? Can she renew this book? All of this dovetails really into local circulation policies. We're not making any of those decisions in EDS. We are basically sending to the ILS, and the ILS makes the decision with the given circulation policies, returns the answer to us. In terms of EDS catalog, whether it's an existing or newly created catalog, obviously, Elizabeth mentioned an improved catalog harvest workflow, making sure as much as possible that the workflow is automated and there's less manual intervention is always a good thing for your staff and staff time. And then finally, confirming circulating collections. Like I said, we pass back, or we rely on the source ILS to provide us your circulation policies and to enforce your circulation policies. Well, in EDS, we just need to know which resources, which books, which collections, which branch codes, if it's an innovative site, how do you make your decision on whether something can be checked out, whether something can be requested or have a hold placed on it? Well, it's pretty easy to do within EDS. The catalog team just asks you to confirm which collection codes, which books should have place hold buttons on them, and which ones should not. Pretty easy process. And I think going back to lessons, and here, definitely, Elizabeth, let me take one quick slice at this and then open it back up to you. In terms of lessons that we've learned for patron empowerment in EDS, at present, we're working with a single EDS catalog. We are evaluating support of multiple catalogs, and if that's something that is critical for you, that would be something that we'd want to talk about. But basically, the catalog records are loaded into EDS, and we can work with them with this patron empowerment program. The other lessons that I think are pretty critical, and I think Seton Hall has been a wonderful partner in this endeavor. Multiple staff members have been very participatory, very sharing, and very flexible in testing. When we say we want to optimize EDS and EBSCO linking, we want to make sure that you maintain access and you maintain all of the good EBSCO content that you already have access to, and we're just adding the patron empowerment features. So there are some reviews of linking structure or authorization types, with proxies, on campus and off campus. That's definitely something that we recommend, that you do some standard testing, as you would with any implementation project with library software. And then, of course, test authentication early. I think the one thing I've learned with a couple of the sites that we've recently configured and they've gone live with the ILS integration program is that the authentication, test it really early just to make sure that both sides support that persistent personal identifier. That's probably the number one. Test that early, test that not so much often. Once you have it up and running, it's probably pretty good. Any additions to that, Elizabeth?
I think that authentication is really important. Testing different types of profiles. So yes. We had some very complex users. We had students try things out. We had faculty and admin. We have different statuses in our own systems here, and those statuses did not change. And that it affects circulation issues, because faculty can take out items for a longer period than an administrator or a student, and being able to test those were really important. I think one of the things that was most valuable for us was having the more complex and less complex users. And as Mark mentioned, we did have a number of faculty here who were very facile with technology and were very happy to test. And we had some who were not facile with technology and happy to test, and we were able to see that those users used EDS in vastly different ways. And so our more complex users were able to find problems that we would never have found if we just tried one or two faculty, say. We had somebody who had multiple shared folders and accounts, and that created problems when we created this ILS, which took us a little bit to sort out, but which we would never have found otherwise. And so we would have lost patrons, because patrons have a tendency to just go and complain. They don't actually try to solve problems. You know, that's pretty much standard IT knowledge. You know, and so we were able to head off issues at the past that may have resulted in a lack of buy-in by our end users.
Yeah, I would very much agree with that. I think, and one of the things that's, I think, on the next slide, when we're talking about next steps, I think number 2, I don't have them numbered, I just have them bulleted, but improving user experience for off-campus patrons. I think there's a real opportunity here for OCLC and EBSCO to work cooperatively and collegially on sort of easy proxy and WMS login systems, and sort of when we say SSO and proxying, that we both test for and we both make absolutely certain that off-campus users' experience is easy and valid, and that there's no hiccups. There are definitely some places where easy proxy and WMS, like it's not 100% Venn diagram, but that's something that we're already talking about with OCLC. For the use cases where that's going to be an issue, that's definitely going to be one of the areas that we want to work with OCLC on improving that.
Yeah, so I'll jump in on that. Now, our experience has been that while we have shibboleth to log into your library account, if your off-campus users are going through our Easy Proxy server, which is not against shibboleth at the moment, it's LDAP with Active Directory backend. And what that's causing is that when they try to use their EDS account, and they have to log into their shibboleth, and they have to log in through the LDAP through the Easy Proxy, which is clumsy. And so what this is pushing us towards doing, which is something we've wanted to do anyway, which was to really push towards the single sign-in. And so we're actively moving towards shifting our Easy Proxy instance to shibboleth, so it will be truly a single sign-on environment. And that's something I'm very, very excited about. I hope to roll that out by the end of the semester.
Great.
Yeah.
And one thing I will expose, I mentioned earlier that the Patron Empowerment Program, the ILS integration that we're talking about today, both with Seton Hall and any number, there's probably about 10 OCLC sites who are working with the ILS integration program at this point in time. And one of the things that we have on our event horizon is dealing with and understanding and allowing better user experience with temporary records, those ILL items, whether they be ILL or Relay or some sort of consortial or regional sharing program. And for very good reasons, and I understand them because I've been in that position at a circulation desk, that you might create a provisional record. You might create a provisional bib and a temp item record or holdings record that has a barcode and or allows you to track the usage of, let's say it's a book from Carnegie Mellon at Seton that's now being lent to a Seton Hall user. Well, that's a temporary item. You're not entering into your catalog. So that's one of the elements that we're looking at to improve the user experience for those temporary records that you may not be loading into EDS. Right. So that's definitely something that we're looking at.
Yeah, so the issue is that obviously when we all create temp records, it's not being indexed into the catalog in the same way. So when the catalog gets sent to EBSCO in order to be loaded up and all of the records, and it reaches out, when it reaches out to see the checkout items, it doesn't find this temp record. It can't match it up with anything real, and so it shows that there's an item checked out, but it has no information for it. And that's right. Something that we're actively working with OCLC to try to find a workaround to be able to map directly to those temp records.
Sort of maybe a step one would be to make them read-only and just to display, if we can pull back the information and display it there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
So,
yeah, right. Yeah. Anyway.
the next, I think you already mentioned, the pay fines online. That is a future goal, and that's something that we'll be taking a look at as that functionality comes online on both sides. And probably just overall, some level of customization, and like what customization is absolutely necessary. And Elizabeth, I'll let you. I can't remember the exact use case in terms of you improving login workflow.
Yeah. So one of the things that we have is if I try to download an ebook in EDS and I have not yet logged in, it pops up and says, please log in first, but it doesn't redirect me straight to the login. And that's something we had put that aside as okay, it functions, but not quite as well as we would like because we were focusing on other functionality that we didn't feel worked as well. So my goal is,
Sure.
if you click on download the ebook and you haven't logged in, that it should redirect straight to the shibboleth or to, wherever you are, to on campus or off campus, to be able to log in to authenticate first for that.
And the good news is that if you are if you're in EDS and you select a placehold button and you have not yet logged in, let me just see if I have let's see. So let's go back to.
See, there's my LDAP.
I'm off campus. So let me try this. Nope.
You can switch to me and tell me what to do if you prefer.
Sure. I'm going to stop sharing and give you a presentation. So I think you're actually logged in, so this may not be perfect, but I was just going to say if you can show just a placehold button. So if you are not logged in, one of the pieces of feedback that was really useful and interest in terms of iterative process improvement and iterative user experience improvement, for any item on the screen, so racism and Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. So
if you're logged in, do you want me to close and reopen?
No, okay. That's fine. So if you,
Mark, we lost you, or maybe you lost me.
No, I think I hit my mute button by mistake on my headset. So if you were to select the placehold button and you're not logged in, this is pretty much an equivalent workflow. What it would do is it would send you to the shibboleth or the SSO login and allow that. So that was actually one place that we did improve the workflow, and that's the kind of thing that we're just looking to extend to other elements and other workflows.
Exactly. And when we had the ebooks as well, if you're not logged in, there's a pop-up that says log in. Now I'm logged in, of course, so it just instantly directs towards check it out and download. Exactly. But before it said, don't download, go log in and then come back. So we'd rather cut out those steps.
Exactly.
Yes.
So.
Do you want it back?
Yeah.
You don't have it. Remember, I took it. It's all you again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So in terms of sharing my screen and going back to the PowerPoint, this really just leads us to the final slide, questions. And opening it up, Rachel, I think you may have received some questions during the presentation.
Indeed, we have, and thank you so much for that, Elizabeth and Mark. Very interesting. So actually, we've had a number of questions come in already, and I'll just start moderating them, and Mark and Elizabeth, you can answer. So this one comes from Mike. So we use LDAP authentication with WMS with unique ID at source. Is that SSO authentication currently supported?
That's a Mark question.
Yeah, I'm going to say at this point it is not, unless there is a SHIB or SAML sort of overlay on that. If you have WMS and there's SAML or SHIB, I mean, there are definitely options. EBSCO offers ping identity. If you're not, I don't know, if you're a WMS site, I'm assuming that the Windows Identity Federation SAML is available to you. If you're coming in from a non-WMS or non-OCLC ILS, and you have LDAP or lightweight. I'm not going to remember the exact authentication protocol, I can't remember what the D is, a directory. So if you have LDAP but you do not have SAML or SHIB, there's not yet SSO. At this point in time, EDS does not support LDAP or Active Directory. But it's something we could consider in the long term, but we're trying to go with the most robust authentication protocols, that will allow a really clear and easy user experience.
Yeah, WMS does support LDAP, CAS, Shibboleth. So those are definitely of interest, I'm sure, to many.
And I think one of the things that might be of interest to some sites, particularly if you have CAS or LDAP, is that if we're already going to support OAuth 2, there is some facility, there is some possibility down the road that OAuth, if there's some OAuth potential there for OAuth to use a CAS or an LDAP or an Active Directory as the identity store. So I would say don't give up hope, and let's talk about it.
Great, thanks to you both. So Mike also, he has another question. Our library faculty uses the MARC record view in WMS Discovery. Is that functional there in EDS now?
That's a good question. I don't actually know the answer to that. Let me switch to something that might have.
Yeah. Do you want to?
No, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we could ask another question and I can take a peek.
Yeah, I'll give you a presentation.
Great.
I'll give you presentation rights while we get another question on queue.
Okay.
Excellent. And then this one comes from Laura. Hi, Elizabeth. How will this work when WorldCat Local and First Search is replaced by WorldCat Discovery? We currently subscribe to EDS and use WorldCat Discovery as a catalog only.
Okay, so I don't think it's going to change. Hold on, let me give you all a peek. I don't see that that's changing. We will switch when WorldCat Local is sundowned or sunsetted or killed off or whatever you want to call it. We would switch to Discovery doing the same thing, but there is no end date for that. And I believe they've scaled back the end date for First Search as well. But it would continue to work the same way because since you're WMS, I'll switch into their parlance. We are simply removing worldcat.org and all of the databases from the config files or from the config system. So all it is it loads in books and ebooks. So we can configure that the exact same way with Discovery. Does that answer the question?
I think so. Thank you, Elizabeth.
You're welcome. And I am not seeing a, oh, wait, MARC record right there.
There you go.
Yeah, it was a snake, it would have bit me. Well, that wasn't particularly helpful, was it? It's supposed to be the MARC record. If you click on Retrieve Catalog Item, it goes straight into WorldCat Local, and then you could turn on the MARC record as well.
There you go.
So, yeah, we put that in when we were concerned about RTAC. Never took it out. Obviously, it's a good thing.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'll go ahead and then we can go on to the next question. And this one is from Bruno. Do you use NCIP for the patron function?
NCIP. Do you want to take this or should I?
At present, no, we're not using NCIP. We are using direct API calls. So we want to make sure that, at this point in time, our first and foremost effort is to work with fully functional APIs between an ILS vendor and EDS. And so we are trying to avoid screen scraping. We are trying to avoid NCIP and sort of a hybrid approach and going with direct API calls whenever and wherever is possible. So
I will add in that we've had some direct experience with using NCIP. As those of you who are listening may or may not know, NCIP is a protocol that OCLC uses, and very few other people use it as well. What most people use is Z39.50 or Z39.50, as I believe Mark calls it. Our major consortia, PALC, uses Z39.50 as well. And so what we had to do in order to create a link between the two catalogs to set up our EasyBorrow system was to have the two companies sit down and actually create a connector. So it is possible to do that, to be able to map the calls from one style to the calls from the other protocol. It was a lot of work, mostly getting them to sit down and actually talk to each other and agree on a timeline and who was going to do what. But it's quite possible. So.
Great, thank you. And Paige Johnson asks, are you happy with the searching in EBSCO Discovery Service versus WMS Discovery?
Yes. One of the reasons we didn't want to give up EDS was because we felt that the searches were a little bit better. We felt that EDS found more of our items, and one of the things that, in the way that we wanted them findable, we wanted to be able to do subject heading searching, which Discovery didn't have, and still has something. They've added in something, but it's really not subject heading searching the way we wanted. Another of our big concerns with Discovery is that it uses Ferber, which essentially takes like and similar records. They're supposed to be the same. There's supposed to be different editions and formats of the same record, but sometimes other things get tossed in, and flattens it down to a single record. So if I go in to and I do my usual search, I have one item that comes up as that particular item, and it may or may not be available. This is new to have these. These are other additions, but I'd have to drill down in order to get them. And when I was in Discovery, it only showed you in the thing, and I can try to bring it up. I don't use it, so it's almost never here. Hold on. And this may have changed, but we'll try. Oops, and I can't spell either. Sorry about that. What our concern was here that, look, you only have one of To Kill a Mockingbird. And in order to find the other editions, I have to drill down and to go down here, and then to know to go to editions and formats, and to continue to drill down. And we felt that our users we would lose them at this level where they see that there's only one. Whereas if I do that same search here, I'm not specifying the field, so of course I'm going to get this, and I'm going to get some critical theory, but I also get other versions of it. So if it's not available or it's reserved, I can continue to go down the list, and I see that we have other copies of it elsewhere in our libraries. Oh, and here's one, so I know I can find it. I spoke to OCLC about that, and their rationale was that when you have an ARL library might have 100 copies of something, and so they want that Ferber. But for me, I want my students to be able to see every item that's on the shelf. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yes, I think so, and we'll wait for a response there if any. In the meantime, Robin asks, we are a WMS library that uses EasyProxy to authenticate our resources from WMS Discovery now. Would we be able to transfer that to EBSCO Discovery?
Mark?
So the scenario, I think, as I heard it, was that you're using EasyProxy for access to the license resources from off-campus. So if you're in EDS, for example, and correct me if I'm missing something in that scenario, if you're in EDS, you're probably using something like auth type IP, UID, and you're essentially allowing the proxy server to do the heavy lifting of, are you in network, are you in-house, or in library, or are you out? And so you're allowing institutional authorization or institutional authentication to licensed e-content. And that's one piece of the puzzle. When you're talking about adding the patron empowerment features, you're not only talking about, yes, I am an affiliate of Seton Hall, or yes, I am an affiliate of this WMS and this campus, this university or college. You're adding that I want to place a hold on my own behalf. And so it's that SSO and that personalization option where the individual user comes into play. So Easy Proxy, we're definitely going to continue talking with OCLC about Easy Proxy SSO, and as Elizabeth has indicated, I think there's already discussions on OCLC, EBSCO, and Seton Hall, for example, talking about the Easy Proxy server being integrated fully within the Windows Identity Federation within the SSO. So I think the answer to your question is that's one piece of the puzzle, but it doesn't get everything. Not yet.
Thank you, Mark. So it looks like that was the last question that's come in as of now. And I wanted just to take a moment to remind everyone that this has been recorded and it will be sent out to all registrants on Friday. A link to the recording will also be placed on our blog at discovery.ebsco.com/pulse, and I'll send that link out to all participants via the chat. And I'm going to leave it to Mark and Elizabeth. If you guys want to cover anything else in the last couple minutes, we can do that, or we can go ahead and wrap up.
I don't have anything.
I think if we can just go back to the presentation one last time, Elizabeth, and go to that last slide. I just want to make sure, you'll see this in the presentation, you'll see this in the recording. There are our titles, our emails, but really the one thing I wanted to point out, I know Elizabeth is a great resource. Definitely pick me occasionally as well. Don't just talk to Elizabeth. I am very happy to field some questions and hopefully help some of you out as well. Tim Lull here at EBSCO has also identified himself as yet another resource. And then, of course, you have your local EBSCO and your local OCLC sales rep. Your customer account rep, both for OCLC and other systems. Obviously, we've been working very well and very collegial with OCLC, and we hope to continue that. We plan to continue that. And on Seton Hall and any number of WMS sites' behalf, and we are already talking with other ILS vendors. You can already see that by virtue of we're adding support for OAuth too, and that is going to extend the possibilities and the number of ILS vendors that we can work with. So we're looking forward to questions and getting contacted. I'll say that particularly for myself. Elizabeth's a great resource, but definitely share the wealth, share the love with me as well.
Share the love, right? And Tim has been great. He's really easy to work with as well.
So with that, thank you so much, Elizabeth, all of your colleagues at Seton Hall, and thanks to everyone online who's participated and spent some of your afternoon with us.
Yes, thank you, and it's been a real pleasure, genuinely.
You as well, absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks, Rachel.
Great, thanks everyone.